Unfortunately, I keep getting richer. Episode 2, The House Nobody Wanted. Bai Lionhue awoke beneath a silk duvet and spent several seconds wondering who had stolen the ceiling. The one above her bed was painted with pale clouds. A narrow line of gold ran around its edge, and morning light slipped through curtains tall enough to cover the wall of a factory. She lay still, listening. No pipes knocked behind the plaster. No neighbor coughed through a partition. Nobody argued over whose turn it was to buy coal, and no alarm clock rang from the bed beside hers. The silence was so complete that she could hear herself breathing. Then she remembered the presidential suite, the inheritance, and Zhou Ming's telephone call. She had spent more than 400,000 yuan. She had become 338 million richer. Lionhue pulled the duvet over her face. That was a terrible first attempt. Someone knocked at the suite door. She found the robe at the foot of the bed, put it on, and crossed a sitting room larger than the orphanage dining hall. The corridor beyond it led past 2 of the suite's 3 toilets. She still had no explanation for the third. A hotel butler waited outside with a silver breakfast trolley. "Good morning, Miss Bai." "Is it?" His professional smile faltered. "I hope so." She stepped aside. "Come in before the eggs lose confidence." He wheeled the trolley towards the dining table. Beneath polished covers were congee, dumplings, sliced fruit, fried dough, eggs, tea, and a small dish of something black and expensive-looking. "I didn't order breakfast." "Breakfast is included with the suite." "Included?" "Yes, Miss Bai." "So it costs nothing." "It is part of the room rate." "Then it has already cost something." The butler relaxed. "Precisely." Lionhue looked at the food. "Bring the most expensive breakfast the kitchen can make." "Of course." "And leave this one." He hesitated. "For you." "For whoever hasn't eaten." His eyes moved towards her face and away again. By now, every member of staff at the Grand Jianhua knew who she was. Some had learned before midnight. The rest had arrived for work to find managers inspecting their uniforms and whispering that the new owner was upstairs. "I will ask the kitchen to prepare another meal," he said. "Don't throw this away." "We won't." "People say that when they mean they'll wait until I stop looking." The butler straightened. "I will eat it myself if necessary." "Good, take a chair." His expression suggested that eating breakfast in the presidential suite might violate several rules and possibly national law. "I have already eaten, Miss Bai." "Then find someone who hasn't." He bowed and left with the untouched trolley. Lionhue returned to the bedroom and found her old coat draped over a chair. Yesterday, a shop assistant had offered to dispose of it. Lionhue had nearly disposed of the shop assistant. The coat looked even worse in daylight. Its brown wool had thinned at the elbows, the lining sagged beneath one pocket, and the wooden button sat among the others like a poor relation at a banquet. She touched it on the way to the telephone. Joe answered after one ring. "Good morning, Miss Bai." "What is the most expensive thing I can buy today?" There was a short silence. "Have you had breakfast?" "It was included." "That was not my question." "A more expensive one is coming." "I see. What can I buy?" "Almost anything offered for sale." "That isn't an answer." "Ships, aircraft, property, art, companies." "A house." "You owned several residences." Gu Jianhong owned several residences. "They now belong to you." "I don't want them." Joe's voice became careful. "The chairman's principal residence has been maintained for your arrival." "My arrival was 25 years late." He did not answer. Lionhue looked out over the city. Traffic moved far below, the cars reduced to dark beads between towers. "I need somewhere to live after the suite is taken," she said. "A place I choose and pay for myself." "There is no practical reason to purchase another residence." "Then it sounds promising." "Buying property is not the same as spending money. It remains an asset." "Only if I buy a good one." Another silence followed. Find me a bad house, Lion Hua said. How bad? Expensive, empty, and impossible to sell. Those requirements are unusually compatible. Good, I want to see it today. Miss Bai, property transactions require inspection, valuation, negotiation, and legal review. How long? Weeks, in an ordinary transaction. I'm not asking for an ordinary one. She heard paper moving on his desk. I will speak to the property division. You have a property division. Gu Corp has 6. Ask the one that knows where rich people hide the houses they regret buying. I'll call you within an hour. Lion Hua put down the telephone and went to inspect the suite's wardrobes. Her new clothes had arrived overnight, arranged by color and purpose. She could not tell what half of the purposes were. She chose black trousers, a cream blouse, and the dark wool coat she had bought the day before. The coat had cost more than 2 years of rent for her bed in the shared room. It was warm, plain, and had pockets deep enough to hold both hands. Her old shoes remained beside the bed. She put those on too. The expensive breakfast arrived while she was tying the laces. It included imported salmon, French pastries, a bowl of strawberries, and coffee carried in a silver pot. How much? She asked. 1,888 yuan, the waiter said. For breakfast? Yes, Miss Bai. She sat down with renewed respect. The coffee was bitter, the strawberries were excellent, the salmon tasted like cold fish wearing perfume. She ate enough to justify at least 200 yuan and ordered the remainder packed for Chunmei. At 8:30, Zhou entered the suite carrying a leather folder. 2 younger men followed him, both in dark suits, both holding more paper than Lion Hua had seen during her entire education. This is Director Peng from Gu Residential Properties, Zhou said, and this is Attorney Liu. Lion Hua nodded towards the chairs. Have you eaten? Director Peng looked at Zhou before answering. Yes. Attorney Liu did the same. Yes, Miss Bai. Does everyone in Gu Corp eat at dawn? Senior employees learn to answer that question correctly, Zhou said. He placed the folder on the table. There are 17 appropriate residences currently available in Jinhai. 3 can be transferred to you immediately from Gu Corp Holdings. 8 are privately listed. 6 could be acquired through discreet approaches to their owners. Are people living in them? Some. Remove those. Director Peng opened his mouth. Zhou glanced at him and he closed it. That leaves 7, Zhou said. Are any of the owners being forced to sell? 2 are under financial pressure. Remove those 2. You asked for a bad house. I asked for one nobody wanted. I didn't ask to take somebody's home while they were drowning. Zhou turned a page. 5 remain. Director Peng laid photographs across the table. The first showed a new villa overlooking a golf course. The second had white columns, a tiled courtyard, and a fountain shaped like 3 fish. The third looked like a European palace that had taken a wrong turn and ended up outside Jinhai. Lion Hua tapped the photographs. How much? Between 38 and 95 million yuan, Director Peng said. Too cheap. He blinked. Miss Bai, 95 million would make it one of the most expensive private residences sold in the city. I made more than that while I was asleep. Nobody at the table corrected her. She pushed the photographs aside. What aren't you showing me? Director Peng looked towards Zhou again. Stop doing that, Lion Hua said. Doing what? Checking his face before you speak. If he wanted to answer, he wouldn't have brought you. Director Peng adjusted his tie. There is one property, he said. It is not technically a private residence. Does it have a bed? 312 guest rooms. Lion Hua leaned forward. Zhou closed his eyes briefly. Director Peng removed a larger photograph from the bottom of the folder. The building stood beside a lake on the eastern edge of the city. It had curved roofs, stone terraces, and 3 long wings joined around a central courtyard. A ceremonial gate faced the water. Beyond it rose wooded hills and a row of unfinished towers. The Qingshui Palace Hotel, Director Peng said. Construction began 8 years ago. It was intended to be the finest resort hotel in the province. Intended. The original developer ran out of money. A second developer completed most of the building, opened it for 11 months and failed. The present owner acquired it through a debt settlement and has kept it closed for 4 years. Why? It is too far from the city center, too large for the local market, and expensive to maintain. There are ownership disputes involving 2 parcels near the lake, unpaid contractor claims, and an unresolved access agreement with the Municipal Development Authority. Lionhua picked up the photograph. The hotel looked beautiful in the way abandoned things sometimes did. The lake was gray beneath an overcast sky. Weeds pushed between stones in the forecourt. Is anyone living there? One caretaker and his wife occupy a service apartment. Do they want to leave? I don't know. Ask them. Director Peng made a note. How much? The secured creditors are auctioning the holding company today. The reserve is 860 million yuan. Today. At 2 o'clock. Lionhua looked at Zhou. You found that quickly. Gu Corp considered acquiring it 2 years ago, he said. We declined. Why? Because it was a bad investment. She smiled for the first time that morning. Perfect. Zhou did not smile back. The reserve is only the beginning, he said. Clearing the debts and completing outstanding works could bring the true cost above 1 billion. Better. You would be exchanging cash for an asset. A bad asset. Possibly. Your property division didn't want it. 2 other developers failed. It has been empty for 4 years. What more do you need? Permission to conduct due diligence. You have until 2. Attorney Liu looked alarmed. That is less than 5 hours. Then don't waste time eating. We already ate, Zhou reminded her. Excellent, you're ahead. Lionhua took the photograph with her when she left the suite. The hotel manager, Manager Q, and 6 department heads waited in the corridor. They bowed at slightly different speeds. Yesterday, Manager Q had told Lionhua that every guest in the hotel was more important than she was. This morning, she appeared unable to decide where to put her eyes. Miss Bai, the hotel manager said, we hope your stay has been satisfactory. The windows do open. His face changed. It is a safety feature. I know, it saved a telephone. Nobody laughed. Lionhua looked at Manager Q. Did the temporary workers receive their full pay? The agency processes payment on Friday. That wasn't my question. Manager Q swallowed. The hotel has instructed the agency that there will be no deductions, including the uniform deposit. Including the deposit. Good. She began walking towards the lift, then stopped. The woman who shared my floor yesterday, short hair, burned hand. Manager Q knew immediately who she meant. Chen Fen. She has worked here before. Several times. Is she good? Yes. Then why is she temporary? The manager answered this time. Temporary staffing allows us to adjust labor costs according to occupancy. Meaning you can send her home when you don't need her. That is standard practice. Offer her a permanent job. The department heads became very still. Miss Bai, Zhou said, employment decisions are normally handled through management. Then management can offer her a permanent job. She pressed the lift button. Don't hire anyone who is bad at the work. Don't keep good workers temporary because it saves 6 yuan. The doors opened. Zhou entered beside her. When they were alone, he said, if you intervene in individual appointments, every employee in Gu Corp will attempt to reach you. Then tell them I only interfere when somebody annoys me. That will not reduce the number. The Grand Lionhua provided a black sedan and driver. Lionhua asked how much the journey would cost and was told the car belonged to the hotel. She refused to get in. 10 minutes later, a hired luxury car arrived at the entrance. "This is absurd," Joe said as they took their seats. "How much?" 800 yuan for the day. "Then it's useful. You own the other vehicle. That means using it wouldn't reduce the money." Joe settled into the seat opposite her. "By that reasoning, you should sell every vehicle you own and hire them back." Lion Hyo considered it. "Do not consider it. You brought it up." The car moved east through the city. Director Peng and attorney Liu followed in another vehicle, already making calls. Lion Hyo watched the streets pass. She knew this part of Jinhai from bus windows and job notices. The factories became larger towards the outskirts, their brick walls running for entire blocks. Beyond them were workers' compounds, vegetable plots, and construction sites where new towers rose from fields. "The city will reach this area eventually," she said. Joe glanced at her. "Eventually. That's unfortunate. For your plan. For the bad house. Even if the district develops, the property has serious structural problems." "You sound encouraging again." The Qingshui Palace stood behind rusting gates and a stone wall darkened by rain. Its sign had lost 2 characters. A dry fountain occupied the center of the forecourt, filled with leaves and 1 broken chair. An elderly man opened the gate. His padded jacket was patched at both elbows, and a ring of keys hung from his belt. "Director Peng," he asked. Director Peng introduced the group. When the caretaker heard Lion Hua's name, he stared at her shoes. "You're Chairman Gu's daughter." "Apparently. You don't look like him." "I've been told that's an advantage." The caretaker laughed before remembering that nobody else had. His name was Old Wu. His wife joined them from the service wing, wiping flour from her hands. They had lived at Qingshui Palace since construction began and had remained through every bankruptcy because no owner wanted to pay for full-time security. "Do you want to leave?" Lion Hua asked. Old Wu looked confused. "Leave? If I buy it?" He glanced at his wife. "This is our home," she said quietly, "but if the new owner wants—" "I asked what you want." Old Wu's wife tightened her hands in her apron. "We would like to stay." "Then you stay." Attorney Liu cleared his throat. Any continued occupancy should be addressed in the acquisition agreement. "Address it." They entered through doors tall enough for a temple. The lobby was magnificent and freezing. Marble columns rose towards a carved wooden ceiling. Dust covered the reception desk, and white sheets draped the furniture. A chandelier hung above them with half its bulbs missing. Lion Hua walked slowly across the floor. The place smelled of stone, old carpets, and closed rooms. "The heating system was drained after a pipe burst," Old Wu said. "We keep the service apartment warm with a coal stove." "How much to fix it?" Director Peng answered. "The preliminary estimate is 20 million. "Good." They passed a ballroom with water damage along one wall. "How much?" "Perhaps 12 million. The kitchens needed new equipment. The eastern guest wing had faulty plumbing. The lake terrace had subsided by several centimeters. One lift had never passed inspection, and another made a sound like a metal cupboard falling downstairs. At every defect, Lion Hua asked the same question. By the time they reached the top floor, Director Peng had stopped looking surprised. The presidential apartment occupied the central wing. Its sitting room faced the lake through a curved wall of glass. Furniture remained beneath sheets. A piano stood in one corner, its keys yellowed but intact. Lion Hua opened a bedroom door. "How many toilets?" 11 in this apartment, Old Wu said. She looked at Joe. "The Grand Giant Hua has been defeated." The bedroom contained a carved bed, 2 wardrobes, and curtains faded by years of sun. It was less polished than the suite she had left that morning, but it felt quieter. The lake beyond the glass held the color of steel. "Why did the hotel fail?" she asked. Director Peng consulted his notes. "Poor access, excessive construction debt, weak management, corruption allegations, and an opening campaign aimed almost entirely at foreign tourists who did not come. Did ordinary people come? They couldn't afford it. So they built a palace beside a city full of people and waited for strangers. That is a simplified assessment. Was it wrong? Director Peng looked around the empty room. No. They continued through the private dining room, library, and rooftop garden. The garden had become a forest of weeds. A young tree grew from a crack beside the ornamental pond. Lionhua stood at the edge of the roof and looked towards Jinhai. From there, the city appeared distant. Construction cranes marked its approach across the eastern plain. Between the hotel and the nearest developed road lay old warehouses, fields, and a cluster of low houses beside the lake. Who lives there? She asked. Families from Qingshui village, Old Wu said. Most work in factories now. Does the hotel own their land? Attorney Liu checked the survey map. No, the disputed parcels are north of the access road. Would buying this remove anyone from their home? Not under the current boundaries. Good. Joe watched her fold the map. You have seen enough, he asked. I've seen 11 toilets. Is that a yes? I want it. Director Peng stepped closer. Miss Bai, I strongly recommend waiting for the legal review. The creditor auction allows a 30-day completion period. We can register interest today without making an irrevocable bid. Will someone else buy it? That is unlikely. Then why is there an auction? The creditors must follow procedure. Who else registered? He looked at Joe. Lionhua sighed. Again. Shen Development, Director Peng said. They may intend to acquire it below reserve after the auction fails. Below reserve? The debt syndicate has been trying to dispose of it for 3 years. If there are no bids, Shen Development can negotiate directly. And what would happen to Old Wu and his wife? I cannot speak for Shen Development. Old Wu looked towards the lake. Lionhua handed the map back. We're going to the auction. Joe waited until they were in the car before speaking. You do understand that Shen Development's interest is another reason for caution. You said they want it cheaply. Yes. Then they agree it is bad. They may know something we don't. You have 6 property divisions. Which is why I know that people occasionally hide information from property divisions. Lionhua leaned into the soft leather seat. What is Shen Development? A subsidiary of Shen Holdings, property, retail, and entertainment. They are one of Gu Corp's competitors, though the difference in scale is considerable. Who runs it? Shen Yutong founded the group. His daughter oversees development. Is she good? Shen Yutong is disciplined, educated, and ambitious. You didn't say good. I said what I intended. The auction was held in a conference center attached to the Municipal Finance Bureau. By the time they arrived, Attorney Liu had produced a preliminary report thick enough to stop a door. There are 47 known claims against the holding company, he said as they crossed the lobby. 9 are disputed. 4 contractors are owed wages. The access agreement permits the municipal authority to reclaim a section of road frontage if development conditions are not met. How much to pay everyone? That is not how claims are settled. It is if they are owed money. Some claims may be inflated. Then check them. That takes time. Pay the honest ones today. Argue with the dishonest ones tomorrow. Attorney Liu looked at Joe. Lionhua stopped walking. Both men stopped with her. If one more person checks your face before answering me, she told Joe, I'm going to buy him a bell. What purpose would the bell serve? He can ring it whenever someone needs permission to speak. Attorney Liu lowered his eyes, but she saw the beginning of a smile. The auction room held about 60 people. Most were lawyers, bank representatives, or property executives. Conversations weakened as Lionhua entered beside Zhou Mingde. Some recognized her from the morning papers. Others recognized Zhou and worked out who she must be. The whispers reached her before she found a seat. That's her. The missing daughter. She was working at the Grand Gianhua. Why is she here? Gu Corp must be buying. Zhou led her towards the front row. Lionhua chose an empty chair near the aisle instead. Across the room, a woman in a white suit watched her. Shen Yutong was 29, with sleek black hair, a pearl brooch, and the composed posture of someone who had been taught how to enter rooms before she learned how to drive. Two men from Shen Development sat beside her. A catalog rested unopened on her lap. She rose when Zhou approached. Uncle Zhou, she said warmly, I was sorry to hear about Chairman Gu. Thank you, Director Shen. Her gaze moved to Lionhua. Miss Gu. Bye, Lionhua said. Excuse me. My name is Bai Lionhua. Shen Yutong's smile remained in place. Of course, we have all been very curious to meet you. Why? The question caught her off guard for less than a second. Your return changes a great deal. I didn't go anywhere. One of the men beside Shen Yutong studied the catalog. Shen Yutong looked at Lionhua's old shoes, then at the coat over her arm. Are you interested in Qingshui Palace? Yes. It is a complicated property for a first acquisition. That's what everyone keeps telling me. Perhaps they are trying to protect you. From a building. From people who might take advantage of your inexperience. Lionhua glanced at Zhou. Is she one of them? The man with the catalog coughed. Shen Yutong's smile tightened. My company has studied Qingshui for 2 years. If Gu Corp is considering a bid, perhaps our teams should speak before the auction. Gu Corp isn't bidding. For the first time, Shen Yutong looked genuinely surprised. I am, Lionhua added. Personally, I need a house. Shen Yutong looked towards Zhou, waiting for him to explain the joke. He did not. You intend to live there. It has a bed. The auction clerk called the room to order. Shen Yutong returned to her seat slowly. Lionhua sat beside Zhou and accepted a numbered paddle from Attorney Liu. Do I need this? Raise it when you wish to bid. Can I say the amount? The auctioneer will set the increments. What if I don't like the increments? Please try them first. The first 3 lots were commercial debts secured against warehouses. Lionhua listened for several minutes, understood almost none of the language, and watched men spend tens of millions without moving more than one hand. The Qingshui Palace Holding Company was Lot 4. The auctioneer described the hotel, the land, the debts, and the conditions of sale. He spoke quickly and without enthusiasm. The reserve price is 860 million yuan. Opening bids at the reserve. Increments of 10 million. Nobody moved. Lionhua waited. Shen Yutong's paddle remained on her lap. The auctioneer repeated the reserve. No bids. I will allow 30 seconds before the lot is withdrawn. Lionhua turned to Zhou. I thought she wanted it. Below reserve, he murmured. So if nobody bids, she gets it cheaper. She may attempt to. Lionhua raised her paddle. The room stirred. 860 million from bidder 31, the auctioneer said. Do I have 870? Shen Yutong turned her head. Her expression had not changed, but the man beside her leaned close and whispered. She raised her paddle. 870 million. Lionhua raised hers. 880. Shen Yutong bid again. The price moved through 900 million. Each time Shen's paddle rose, Lionhua followed. At 940 million, Zhou touched the edge of Lionhua's catalog. She is testing you. How do I pass? Stop reacting immediately. Lionhua waited through the auctioneer's first call, then raised the paddle at the second. Shen Yutong looked back at her. 960 million, the auctioneer said. Shen bid 970. 1 billion, Lionhua said. The auctioneer paused. Bidder 31, the required increment is 10 million. I know. I have 1 billion yuan. Every face in the room had turned towards her. Shen Yutong's advisor whispered again. She considered the front of the room, then lifted her paddle. 1 billion and 10 million. Lion Hua looked at Attorney Liu. What is the total debt? Depending on disputed claims, approximately 1,240 million. And repairs? At least 150 million. She looked at the auctioneer. 1,500 million. The silence that followed was so complete that someone's pen could be heard rolling off a table. The auctioneer gripped his lectern. Bidder 31 offers 1,500 million yuan. Shen Yutong stared at Lion Hua. Is there a higher bid? Nobody moved. 1,500 million first call. Zhou's face revealed nothing. Director Peng had stopped writing. Second call. Shen Yutong's hand tightened around her paddle but did not rise. Sold. The hammer struck. Applause began somewhere in the back of the room, uncertain and brief. It was not customary, but neither was paying 500 million yuan more than the nearest competing bid. Lion Hua handed the paddle to Attorney Liu. That was quick. Yes, he said faintly. Can we go home now? Which home? She pointed at the photograph in the catalog. Outside the auction room, reporters had gathered before the paperwork was signed. Someone inside had already called them. Miss Bai, why did you purchase Qingshui Palace? Will Gu Corp enter the Eastern tourism market? Does the acquisition indicate confidence in the district? Were you aware that Shen Development intended to bid? Microphones crowded towards her. Lion Hua looked at Zhou. Do I have to answer? No. She looked back at the reporters. I needed somewhere to live. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then every reporter began asking a question at once. Zhou's security staff formed a path to the exit. Lion Hua reached the car with flashes bursting behind her. Shen Yutong emerged as the door was closing. Their eyes met across the pavement. Lion Hua gave her a small nod. Shen Yutong did not return it. Inside the car, Zhou removed his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. 1,500 million yuan. You said it might cost more than 1 billion. That was not an instruction to add 500 million. I wanted to cover the debts. The purchase price satisfies secured creditors. It does not automatically settle every claim. Then settle them. We will verify them. And the workers. The wage claims will receive priority. Lion Hua relaxed against the seat. How much have I spent today? You have committed 1.5 billion. Taxes, fees, repairs, and claims may take the total towards 1.8. Now we're making progress. The sale will not complete today. Why? Because the law continues to exist, even when you are impatient. Can we pay it to move faster? No. That seems badly designed. By the time they returned to the Grand Giant Hua, the auction had reached the financial news. Television screens in the lobby showed Lion Hua walking beside Zhou beneath a headline about Gu Jianhong's mysterious heir. The presenter called the acquisition a bold personal vote of confidence in Jin Hai's eastern expansion. I said I needed a house, Lion Hua told the screen. The presenter continued speaking. She can't hear you, Zhou said. She heard something I didn't say. The hotel manager hurried towards them. Miss Bai, Chairman Zhou, there are several calls from journalists, 2 provincial officials and the president of Eastern Union Bank. Why? They wish to congratulate Miss Bai on the Qingshui acquisition. They should congratulate the bank, Lion Hua said. It got the money. She took the lift upstairs, while Zhou remained in the lobby to handle the calls. Her expensive breakfast had been removed. A handwritten note sat beside a sealed food box. The note was from the butler. The first breakfast had gone to 2 kitchen porters and a laundry worker who had missed the staff meal. The second had been packed as requested. Lion Hua read the note twice, folded it and put it in the pocket of her old coat. Then she called Chunmei. The dormitory telephone belonged to the woman who rented the rooms, so it took 6 minutes and 2 shouted conversations before Chunmei came to the line. Who died? Chunmei asked. Lion Hua looked around the presidential suite. Technically, Gu Jianhong. I mean today, nobody calls this telephone unless someone died. I bought a house. Chunmei was silent. Are you still there? Yesterday you had 19 yuan. 13, after the uniform deposit. Today you bought a house. It was a difficult morning. What kind of house? A hotel. Another silence. How many rooms? 312. You bought a 300-room hotel because you needed a house. There were complications. Chunmei began laughing. She laughed until the landlady shouted at her to stop blocking the telephone. Lion Hua held the receiver away from her ear. I have breakfast for you, she said when Chunmei recovered. From the hotel. It has strawberries. Fresh ones. Unless they learn to revive them. I finish at 6. Come here. To the Grand Giant Hua. Yes. They won't let me through the door. It's my door. The words left Lion Hua before she could stop them. She looked towards the entrance of the suite. It was her door. The carpet beneath her feet belonged to her. The people polishing brass downstairs were employed by a company she controlled. Yesterday, she had entered through the service stairwell because temporary workers were not permitted in the lobby. Lion Hua, Chunmei said. Tell them your name. What if they throw me out? Then I'll buy the pavement and wait with you. At 4 in the afternoon, Zhou returned with Director Peng and a different stack of documents. We have completed an initial review of the Qingshui Holding Company, he said. Lion Hua was sitting on the floor beside the low table, comparing room service desserts. She had ordered one of each and disliked 7. That was fast. Gu Corp's legal and property teams suspended other work. Did they mind? They were terrified. Of the building. Of being the person who failed to identify what you had seen. Lion Hua put down a spoon. I saw 11 toilets. The market has chosen another interpretation. Director Peng opened a survey plan across the dining table. The disputed northern parcels include a 42-year commercial development right, he said. It was omitted from the auction summary because the right was considered dormant while the access dispute remained unresolved. What does that mean? It means the holding company controls development rights over a larger area than the hotel grounds. Can I give them back? Director Peng thought she had misunderstood. The rights are potentially valuable. That is why I asked. Zhou placed another paper beside the map. The municipal authority contacted us after the auction. Your full price bid enables the secured debts to be discharged. Once the liens are removed, the access agreement can be completed. You said the authority might take the road. They have offered to build it. Lion Hua stared at him. Why? The Eastern District Development Plan was approved this morning. This morning. Before the auction, but the formal notice was distributed afterwards. It includes a new convention center, a public park, and an extension of the airport road. Director Peng traced a line across the map. It passed the southern wall of Qingshui Palace. The hotel will no longer be isolated, he said. The municipal authority wants a functioning landmark property beside the convention district. They are prepared to provide infrastructure support if redevelopment begins within 18 months. Lion Hua looked from the road to the lake. Shen Yutong knew. She appears to have known part of it, Zhou said. Shen Development has been acquiring warehouses east of the site through intermediaries. They expected the auction to fail and intended to purchase the holding company below reserve before the public announcement affected its value. Then why did she stop bidding? Because your bid exceeded her authority, or because she assumed you knew more than she did. I knew it had 11 toilets. That information may remain between us. Lion Yu pushed the map away. How bad? How bad is what? The damage. Director Peng's expression became wary. Independent estimates will take several days. Based on comparable land transactions and the new infrastructure plan, the holding company may be worth between 3 and 4 billion yuan after the claims are resolved. Lion Yu looked at the desserts. The 7 she disliked had cost more than a factory worker earned in a week. They no longer seemed ambitious. I spent 1.5 billion. Yes. And bought something worth 3. Potentially more. Can the road be stopped? Joe picked up his glasses. You cannot ask the city to cancel a public road because it has increased the value of your house. I can ask. I will not deliver the request. Then what about repairs? Those cost money. The building requires extensive work. Good. Use the most expensive materials. Within reason. Whose reason? Mine. That sounds cheaper. Director Peng looked down at the plans to hide his expression. Joe continued. There is another matter. Trading in Gu Corp shares rose sharply after the auction. Lion Yu closed her eyes. How much? The market interpreted your purchase as evidence that Gu Corp intends to lead development of the Eastern District. You told them Gu Corp didn't buy it. The distinction has not discouraged them. How much? The preliminary increase in the value of your holdings is approximately 2.6 billion yuan. Lion Yu opened her eyes again. Because I bought a bad house. Because investors believe you identified a major development corridor before the announcement. I chose it because your company rejected it. That detail would strengthen their opinion of you. She stood and walked to the window. Far below, people gathered outside the hotel entrance. Camera flashes appeared whenever a black car approached. So today I spent 1.5 billion, she said. The house may already be worth twice that, and Gu Corp gained another 2.6 billion. Your holding gained that amount. The company's total market value rose further. I didn't ask for the worst number. I thought accuracy mattered. Not today. Joe gathered the papers. There is still the cost of restoration. She turned. How quickly can we begin? After completion. Can workers inspect it now? With the creditor's permission. Get it. What do you want the property to become? My house. All 312 rooms. I might have guests. How many? I haven't met them yet. Joe waited for a more useful answer. Lion Yu looked back at the city. Keep the hotel rooms, she said. Fix the kitchens, the heat, and the lifts. Old Wu and his wife stay. Hire the workers who are still owed wages if they want to return. As hotel employees. As the people who know how the place was built. And after restoration. I'll decide. A private residence with 312 bedrooms is difficult to justify. That is becoming one of its best qualities. Chunmei arrived at 6:30, wearing her factory uniform and the expression of a person expecting to be arrested. The doorman admitted her immediately. She crossed the lobby slowly, staring at the chandelier. The hotel manager came forward to escort her to the lift. I know the way, Lion Yu called from the mezzanine. Chunmei looked up. You're wearing new clothes. They're interfering with my reputation. They met at the foot of the stairs. Chunmei touched the sleeve of Lion Yu's coat. How much? Too much. That isn't a number. I'm learning from rich people. Lion Yu took her upstairs. Chunmei inspected every room in the suite, including all 3 toilets. She turned the taps, bounced once on the bed, and opened the minibar. This bottle of water costs 30 yuan. Don't drink it. Why? There's free water beside it. Chunmei stared at her. You bought a hotel for 1.5 billion yuan today. That doesn't mean I've lost my mind. They ate the packed breakfast at the dining table. The pastries had softened, but Chunmei treated the strawberries with reverence. Lionhue told her about Qingshui Palace. "You should come and live there," she said. Chunmei stopped chewing. "In your hotel." "House? It has 300 rooms. That's what makes the house part difficult. I can't live in a palace. You live with 3 women and a ceiling that leaks. That doesn't make a palace sensible. You could have your own room." Chunmei looked down at her hands. The bruise on her jaw had begun to fade. Her fingernails held traces of blue textile dye that never washed out completely. "And what would I do there?" "Sleep. People don't get rooms like that for nothing. You gave me your dinner last winter. It was cabbage. I was hungry. That doesn't cost a room. It does if I set the price." Chunmei's eyes filled before she looked away. Lionhue pushed the strawberries towards her. "The hotel isn't ready. The pipes are broken and one lift sounds violent. You have time to argue. I'm not accepting charity." "Then work there." "Doing what?" "Tell me when people are cheating the cleaners." Chunmei laughed despite herself. "That's a full-time job." "It might require assistance." The suite telephone rang. Joe was downstairs. He had returned because the Eastern Union Bank president had insisted on meeting Lionhue personally. 3 officials from the Municipal Development Authority had arrived with him. "Do I have to go?" Lionhue asked. "No," Joe said, "but if you refuse, they will wait in the lobby." "How long?" "The bank president appears prepared to grow old there." Lionhue took Chunmei with her. The meeting occupied a private salon beside the ballroom. Tea waited in porcelain cups. Everyone stood when Lionhue entered. She recognized none of them. Joe performed the introductions. President Gao of Eastern Union Bank had silver hair and an eager smile. Deputy Director Han represented the Eastern District Authority. The others were planners and finance officers. Chunmei remained near the door until Lionhue pulled out the chair beside her. "Miss Bai," President Gao began, "allow me to congratulate you on an exceptional acquisition. You own the debt." His smile widened. "Eastern Union led the syndicate." "Then I should congratulate you." Deputy Director Han laughed. President Gao decided to do the same. They spoke about infrastructure, investment, commercial confidence, and the future of Eastern Jinhai. Lionhue understood that the city wanted the hotel open before the convention center, and that the bank wanted everyone to know it had financed the property without losing money. "What support is the authority offering?" Joe asked. Deputy Director Han produced a document. "Accelerated road access, utility connections, and remediation of the public lakeshore. If the property resumes hotel operations, it may also qualify for a development grant." "A grant," Lionhue said. "A contribution towards redevelopment costs." "You want to give me money?" "To support employment and tourism." "I'm trying to spend money." The deputy director smiled politely. "Restoration will still require substantial private investment." "How substantial?" "Perhaps 200 million. "Make it 3. Nobody answered. "Miss Bai means that quality should not be sacrificed," Joe said. "I meant 3. He continued, as if she had not spoken. President Gao offered favorable financing. "I have cash," Lionhue said. "Naturally, the facility would preserve liquidity." "I don't want to preserve it." The banker looked towards Joe. Lionhue pointed at him. "You owe me a bell." Chunmei made a sound that became a cough. By the end of the meeting, the authority had agreed to begin the access road early. The bank had offered terms Lionhue did not want, and President Gao had invited her to dinner with several of Jinhai's most influential business leaders. "How expensive is the dinner?" she asked. "You would be my guest." "Then no." He appeared wounded. "I'll attend if I can pay." "Miss Bai, it would be an honor to host you." It would be useful if you let me spend something. After they left, Chunmei sat very still. That man lends money to the factory, she said. He tried to lend money to me. The factory director waits months for an appointment with him. He waited downstairs for 20 minutes. Chunmei looked at her friend as though the shape of her had changed. Lionhue noticed and disliked it. I still owe you 12 yuan, she said. 14. For what? The noodles. Those were 6. You said I could charge interest. You're adapting quickly. That restored something familiar between them. Later that night, Shen Yutong sat in her father's study with the Qingshui auction catalog on the desk between them. Shen Yutong was a broad man with heavy eyelids and a habit of listening without moving. He had built his first shopping center with borrowed money and spent 30 years ensuring nobody remembered the borrowing. 1.5 billion, he said. It was irrational. The development rights alone may be worth that. Not before the road announcement. She knew about the road. There is no evidence of that. She arrived with Zhou Mingde and Gu Corp's property director. She said she wanted a house. Her father looked at her. And you believed her? No. Shen Yutong turned the catalog so the photograph faced away. For 2 years, her team had assembled the northern parcels around Qingshui. They had cultivated officials, tracked creditor meetings, and waited for the failed hotel to become cheap enough to acquire without attention. The last obstacle had been the auction. She had expected an empty room and a withdrawn lot. Instead, Bai Lionhue had appeared in old shoes, called a billion-yuan hotel a house, and taken the center of Shen Development's eastern plan in less than 10 minutes. By evening, 3 of Shen's prospective partners had called to ask whether Gu Corp now controlled the district. What do we know about her? Shen Yutong asked. Almost nothing. Orphanage records, temporary labor, factory work, no formal business education. Then she listens to Zhou. Zhou tried to stop her bidding. In public. Quietly. Perhaps he wanted you to see. Shen Yutong said nothing. Her father poured tea. Do not underestimate her, because she cleaned floors. I don't. You sound as though you do. She looked towards the dark window. Yesterday, nobody knew she existed. Today, the entire city thinks she predicted the Eastern plan. Did she? I intend to find out. At the Grand Gianhua, Lionhue had a different concern. She sat cross-legged on the presidential bed with a calculator, a room service menu, and the figures Zhou had reluctantly provided. Auction commitment, 1,500 million. Estimated claims and costs, 280 million. Clothes, meals, cars, and hotel expenses, an amount too small to improve her mood. Potential Qingshui value, at least 3 billion. Increase in the value of her Gu Corp holdings, 2.6 billion. She pressed the calculator buttons again. The answer remained offensive. Chunmei, wearing one of the suite's robes, watched from the other side of the bed. Maybe you should buy something that isn't land. Everything becomes land if it sits still long enough. Buy food. I can only eat so much. Give it away. That's different. Why? Lionhue rested the calculator on her knee. She could give money away. 10 trillion yuan could feed people, build schools, and fill hospitals. The thought had occurred to her before she left the boardroom. But generosity was not the same as refusal. If she gave away Gu Jianhong's fortune in one grand gesture, it would become a monument to him. Newspapers would print his name beside every donation. People would call her a dutiful daughter honoring her father's legacy. She did not feel dutiful. She wanted every meal she had missed, every warm room she had been denied, and every door that had once closed because she lacked the price of entry. She wanted to use the money until it stopped feeling like an apology delivered by a dead man. I'll help people when I know what they need, she said, not because I'm angry with someone else. Chunmei considered that. Then buy a business that loses money. Lionhew looked up. A bad business. The factory loses money. Does it? That's what the director says whenever wages are late. Would buying it hurt anyone? Only the director. Lionhew reached for the telephone. Chunmei caught her wrist. I was joking. It was a good joke. I have to work there tomorrow. Not if I buy it. Lionhew. She released the telephone. Fine, I'll find another one. At 11:30, Joe received her call at home. I need a business that loses money every day, she said. He was silent long enough that she checked the line. Are you there? Yes. Do you know one? Many. Find me the worst. You bought a failed hotel this afternoon. It has betrayed us. By becoming valuable. Exactly. What kind of business? Something expensive, something people with sense avoid. No land if we can help it. Joe exhaled slowly. I will ask the investment division. Ask the division with the worst record. Goo Corp does not maintain one for that purpose. It should. They sound useful. Go to sleep, Miss Bai. That's what I did last night. Look what happened. She ended the call and set the calculator aside. Across the city, Joe remained at his desk. Beside him lay the final report from Qingshui Palace. The acquisition had done more than increase the value of Bai Lionhua's personal estate. It had disrupted Shen Development's concealed land assembly, secured Gu influence over the Eastern Convention District, and restored confidence in the group's succession. Every executive who had doubted the chairman's unknown daughter was now asking what she planned next. Joe turned to the list his office had prepared of Gu Corp's weakest investments. At the top was a film studio that had lost money for 6 consecutive years. He drew a line through it. If Bai Lionhua bought the studio and one successful film emerged, the story would become unbearable. He looked at the second name. Jinhai Ocean World. The aquarium had aging equipment, falling attendance, expensive animals, and no valuable development land beneath it. It lost nearly 2 million yuan each month. Joe studied the page. Then he remembered Bai Lionhua standing in a ruined hotel, asking whether the caretaker wanted to leave. He placed the list in a drawer. In the presidential suite, Lionhua switched off the lamp. She had tried to spend 400,000 yuan and gained hundreds of millions. She had tried 1.5 billion and gained several billion more. Tomorrow, she would choose something that consumed money simply by opening its doors. Somewhere in Jinhai, there had to be a purchase incapable of improving her life. The city, however, had begun waiting to see what Bai Lionhua would buy next. By morning, financial newspapers would place her photograph beside maps of eastern Jinhai. Analysts who had never spoken to her would explain the reasoning behind her bid. One would call it aggressive, another would call it visionary. A third would claim that the old shoes had been chosen deliberately to distract competitors. Nobody would mention the 11 toilets. At Qingshui Palace, old Wu received a telephone call confirming that he and his wife could remain. He woke her to share the news, and together they lit the coal stove in their small service apartment. At Shen Development, a team worked through the night to calculate how much Bai Lionhua had cost them. At Gu Corp, directors studied the Eastern District and wondered what their new owner understood that they did not. Only Bai Lionhua knew the truth. She had bought the house nobody wanted. By bedtime, everybody wanted it.